طيب تفضل يا أخي.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. And what is sahih regarding contracts is that the effects of it are directly affected by its existence, such as the relationship between property and the contract of sale, for example. Nothing can be valid until it meets the necessary conditions and is free of any obstacles, in parentheses, preventing it from being valid. For example,
نعم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، Islamically, a condition ما يلزم من عدمه العدم ولا يلزم من وجوده وجود ولا عدم. A condition is that it is not binding. عفوا. A condition is that يعني ما يلزم من عدمه العدم. It is binding. Oh, let's say it in a better way. If it is not met, then the objective is not fulfilled, let's say. There is no fulfillment if it is not met. Yeah? If it is not there, then the thing is not there. He says, ما يلزم من عدمه العدم. That's difficult to... Let me try to seek some help in translation. طيب. هو ما يلزم من عدمه العدم ولا يلزم من وجوده وجود ولا عدمه. طيب. And let's say now ترجم. Let's see what our assistant translates. A condition is that which, if absent, necessitates absence, in parentheses of the ruling. But from its presence, neither existence nor non-existence necessarily follows. That's Allahumma, like that's a million times better than what I have just said. But you understand it now, yeah? So this is what is meant by a condition. A condition, if the condition is not met, now we said it in the terms of academically and so on. Explain it to us so that we understand it. Whether we memorize it or not, we can even say it. We can articulate it. We say that if it is not met, then the thing is absent, and if it is not met, it does not necessitate existence or non-existence. So what do you mean? We mean as-salah, for example. What is one of the conditions for the salah? Wudu. Wudu is one of the conditions for the salah. طيب. If you don't have wudu, look, ما يلزم من عدمه العدم. If it is absent, meaning if the condition is absent, then the thing itself is absent as well. So if wudu is not there, is absent, you didn't make wudu, is there salah? No, there isn't salah. يلزم من عدمه العدم. If you do not meet the condition, then you haven't met the requirement. The thing is not achieved. You cannot do salah. Salah is not there anymore because the condition is not there. طيب. What if I meet the condition? We say if you meet it, it doesn't mean that you fulfilled this thing or you didn't fulfill it. It has nothing to do with it. You say, how? I don't understand this. We say, you made wudu. Does that mean you made salah? No. طيب, you made wudu. Does that mean you didn't do salah? No. So it has nothing to do with whether you did it or not, whether it exists or not. The language is a little bit difficult. That, in my opinion, I think this sentence in Arabic is very difficult to translate in English. ما يلزم من عدمه العدم ولا يلزم من وجوده وجود ولا عدم. So what it means, like the example that I have given you, and I'll repeat so that you understand it. If the condition is not met, I didn't do wudu, then there is no salah. Simple as that. You didn't do wudu. You didn't meet the condition. طيب. I made wudu. Does that mean I made salah? No. Does that mean that there is no salah? No. So it has nothing to do with it. It's a condition. So if you fulfill it, it doesn't mean that there is salah or there is no salah. That you made the salah or not. No. It's just a condition that has been fulfilled. This is the definition of a condition. طيب. In Usul al-Fiqh. Al-Imam ibn Uthaymin in the explanation said something similar, but I added to it. I added to it so that it would be complete. طيب. Write this down. Wallahi, this is important. You're studying Usul al-Fiqh now. This is important. You're studying the fundamentals of understanding, of comprehension that you're going to use in Aqidah, especially in Aqidah, in Tafsir, in Hadith, in Fiqh, and so on. طيب. What if I told you there is something that if it is not met, then the thing itself is not met and accomplished. Like we said, if it is not met, there is no salah. Same thing. If it is not met, there is no that thing. However, if it is there, then the thing as well is there. What is that? We say like lineage, family bonds, relative, being a relative. If it's not there, you don't inherit. But if it's there, you inherit. Since it is there, then you inherit. Here, لزم من وجوده الوجود. We don't say لازم من وجوده وجود أو عدم. We say لزم من وجوده الوجود. Here, because it is present, then also the ruling is present, which is what? That you inherit. And we don't call this condition, we call this sabab. We call this cause. This is a cause. So now, you have learned two things that are very important for a student of knowledge. The first thing is what a condition is. The second thing is what? One of the definitions of a condition. And the second thing is a cause. If it's not there, you're not a relative, you don't inherit. But if it is there, then the ruling is there as well. So if you are a relative that can inherit, then you inherit. نعم. طيب. نعم.
Sallallahu alaykum. For example, part of worship is to perform the prayer on time, fulfilling all the conditions, pillars, and obligatory steps. And an example of contracts is to have a contract of sale, fulfilling all the known conditions without anything that would stop it being a valid contract. So if one of these conditions is not present or an impediment is present, it prevents it from being valid. An example of that is the condition of worship, to pray without purification. And an example of that in contracts is the absence of a requirement in the contract.
To pray without tahara, without purification, you have to add something to this. مع الاستطاعة. طيب, somebody prayed without purity because he's not capable. Right? So that's valid. But we say with the ability to do so. So add that to it. With praying without tahara, with the ability to be upon tahara, with the ability to do so. نعم. Or we can say while being able to. نعم.
Sallallahu alaykum. An example of that is the condition of worship to pray without purification while being able to. And an example of that in contracts is the absence of a requirement in the contract, such as selling that which one does not have. An example of the presence of an impediment in worship is to offer.
Does not own. Does not own. Correct that. Barakallahu fikum. Does not. أن يبيع ما لا يملك is what the Sheikh said. نعم.
Sallallahu alaykum. An example of that in contracts is the absence of requirement in the contract, such as selling that which one does not own. An example of the presence of an impediment in worship is to offer supererogatory prayers at a time of prohibition. An
Yeah.
example of the presence.
So he's talking about what now? When we talked about conditions, we're talking now about the opposite of conditions, right? So condition, cause, سبب. Now مانع, شرط, سبب, مانع. The third thing is called a preventive factor, مانع. This one is going to be the opposite. ما يلزم من وجوده العدم. So if it is present, then the ruling is negated. It's not present. Why? Because it's a preventive factor, right? It prevents the ruling from being established. So if it is there, the ruling is not established. And if it is not there, لا يلزم من عدمها وجود ولا عدم. And if it is not met, it does not necessitate the existence or non-existence of the thing itself or the ruling. طيب. Like what? Like the monthly period cycle for women. يلزم من وجودها العدم. In regards to salah, when the period is there, when it is there, then salah is what? There is no salah. Look, it's there is no salah. طيب, if it's not there, has nothing to do with whether salah is there or not there. So it is binding if there is the monthly cycle that there is no salah. However, if there is no monthly cycle, the time has passed and she's upon purity, does not mean that she has prayed or hasn't prayed. So we say ما يلزم من وجوده العمل ولا العدم ولا يلزم من عدمه وجود ولا عدم. نعم.
And an example of the presence of an impediment in contracts is to sell something during Jumu'ah prayer after the second call in a way that is not permissible. Number 2, fasid.
He said, look at the fiqh of the Sheikh. He said to sell something for those that it is obligatory for them to pray Jum'ah. Meaning what? Meaning as-sabi wal-mar'ah are not included. A woman and a child that didn't hit puberty, they're not included in this. Right? طيب. And then at the end, what did he say? He said, على وجه لا يباح, in a way that is not allowed. Why? There are ways that are allowed? Yes. Like urgency. Like urgency or life and death situations and so on. طيب. نعم.
Number 2, fasid. Linguistically means something that has been lost or is at loss. And technically it means the effects that do not result from an act of worship or a contract. Therefore, the fasid, in parentheses, invalid.
نعم. الإمام بن عثيمين رحمه الله تعالى actually gave some examples. He said, after the second adhan, if he wanted to do wudu and he was only capable by buying water, he can buy water. أو شراء اللباس الذي يستر به عورته, or to buy clothing to hide his awrah. And everything that urgency is, whether Islamic or physical, calls towards, then this is allowed. نعم.
The fasid, in parentheses, invalid, acts of worship are those that do not fulfill the obligation, so the demand is not met, such as praying before the correct time. And fasid contracts are those that have no effect, such as selling something unknown.
نعم.
All corrupt acts.
And we call this gharar. And I see that there are still mistakes that are being done in regards to gharar by some brothers. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them, despite the fact that they are indulging in trade and that's actually their job, is trade or yani stuff like this in business, finance, marketing, sales, and so on. And sometimes they mention that so and so would be gharar. More than once I have seen this, and it is not gharar. Therefore, apologies for cutting off this lesson and digressing a little bit just to teach you what gharar is. Gharar, the Messenger ﷺ was asked about it in Sahih Muslim, and he said it is forbidden. And as Imam al-Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala has mentioned in Manhaj al-Salikin, وَبَيْعْ إِحْدَى السِّلْعَتَيْن, I'll sell you one of these two items. So ما تردد بين السلعتين, what is either this or that, this is called gharar. This is called gharar, and it is not allowed. This is called gharar, and it is not allowed. Some of the brothers, sometimes they make the mistake of saying, well, you know, if we do this type of work, we don't know how much, for example, we're going to gain. That's like every business in the world, right? I open a restaurant and I don't know how much I'm going to make. I open a cafe, I open a company. None of us knows. This is not gharar. You say, would it be allowed? Naam, of course it would be allowed. We're talking about, for example, if Muhammad worked for Khalid, and Khalid said, I will give you money, inshallah. How much? Money. What do you mean I'll give you money? He did not designate. Now this is gharar. Or he says, I'm going to give you a percentage. What percentage? A good percentage. What do you mean? You have to say 10%, 20%, 50%. You have to designate. It will be $1,000, $2,000. You have to designate exactly how much it is so that you know what it is. Or for example, I tell you, work for me and I'll give you one of these two cars. Which car? One could be 2020 and the other one is 2023. One is cheaper, one is more expensive. This is gharar. This is gharar. Same, even if it was just two things. And gharar is in so many things that are forbidden in Islam. Like if somebody takes a rock and he says, I will sell you what this rock reaches, for example. Or you work for me and I will throw this rock and whatever it reaches is yours. This is gharar. Somebody has boxes, mystery boxes, right? There are people that are famous because of this, right? Or they are already famous and they do contests like these. They say, we have a mystery box, let's open them. He says, I ordered 10 containers or 5 containers from China. I don't know what's in them. Or we bought mystery boxes. There's a small mystery box and a big mystery box. I don't know what's in them. This is gharar. This is haram. This is forbidden. The same thing with packages. The same thing with in games like soccer and so on, packages. So it's one of these 10 players. Loot boxes as well. You open the box, you get items. You buy it for money. Or you need a certain skin and you buy it for money. And you don't get the skin. However, if you buy the character itself, the skin itself, this is not gharar, because this is what you want. This is the player, even if it was expensive, more expensive, but you want this player, this basketball player or soccer player. You buy this player in the game with real money. This is allowed. So now we understand what gharar is. And also sometimes when they sell a cloth like this, he would go like up top and says, whatever I throw is yours for $20. This is gharar. This is not allowed. All of this is gharar, ya ikhwah. Do you understand what gharar is right now? None of this is allowed. None of this is allowed. طيب, maybe a smart student says, طيب, أخي, we buy eggs and there's gharar. We don't know if all of them are good, and we buy watermelon. We say this type of gharar, the people who spoke about it in the books of fiqh, and they said it is allowed. It is allowed because it is difficult. How are you gonna buy? You're going to open every egg, يعني, and look at it. How? يعني ambiguity in selling something. This is exactly the mistake that I don't want somebody to fall into. It's not ambiguity. It's a certain type of ambiguity. Because if you think ambiguity, you're going to think about everything that is, we're going to open a restaurant. We don't know how much we're getting. La khalas, this is haram. No, it's not haram. This is called trade and business. Ambiguity is when I tell you, do a certain job for me or pay a certain amount for me. Yeah, even in buying. You say, I want to buy, and I say, okay, you pay either 1,000 or 500. How is this? Which one is it? It's not allowed. This is gharar. طيب, what about watermelon and eggs, as we said? We say, the ulama said, الْيَسِيرُ مَعْفُوٌ عَنْهُ. That which is little, that which is minor, is pardoned. Like in watermelon and so on, and eggs and so on. And that which is difficult to check, because you're going to ruin it. If you want to buy 5 watermelons or 10 watermelons, what are you going to do? You're going to open all of them and ruin them? But what if you didn't like 3 or 4 of them? You understand? Yeah. Same thing with eggs. How are you going to check? So this is what is meant by gharar. This is what is meant by gharar. نعم.
Sallallahu alaykum. All corrupt acts of worship, contracts, and conditions are haram.
نعم.
Because that is...
This is an important rule. كل فاسد محرم. Write it down. كل فاسد محرم. Everything that is fasid, that is again, what did they translate fasid to? Corrupt?
No.
Read it again. Read the sentence again.
All corrupt acts of worship, contracts, and conditions are haram.
نعم. This is a قاعدة, a rule. And not everything that is forbidden is corrupt. Unless the forbiddens go back to the thing in itself in essence, or a specific condition of it. In the Hanbali madhab, ya ikhwa, buying and selling after the second adhan of Jum'ah is fasid, is corrupt, meaning is nullified. There is no buying and selling that happened. And some of the people of ilm, I cannot recall now if it is the Jumhur or not. Maybe one of you, Sheikh bin Munir or Ibn Junaid, you can look it up. But in the idea that I have in my mind is that the Jumhur, they're upon that it is correct. However, he has done something which is haram, which is a sin. And even if it's not the Jumhur, there are ulama that have said so. And also, ya akhwa, another rule, everything that is najis, impure, is forbidden. But not everything forbidden is impure. Who can give me an example? Think about it. Everything that is impure is forbidden. But not everything that is forbidden is impure. Uthman says alcohol. We say there is difference of opinion here. Pigs are impure. And what is something that is forbidden but not impure? No, not alcohol. There are a difference between the people. Some of the people, they say alcohol is impure. This is now a difference. We said the overweighing saying, and it is the saying of Imam bin Uthaymeen, that it is pure. But there is a debate there. This is to wake up, huh? لا أدري, nobody knows. Poison, ya ikhwah. Poison is forbidden, but it is not impure. It's forbidden, yes, but it's not impure. Okay? Remember this, huh? Remember this example. Don't forget it. طيب. What about buying and selling in the masjid? Some of the people, they say it's the buying and selling is nullified. And some of the people, they say it is correct, but the person who did it is forbidden. And our Sheikh Muhammad Hisham says, if you are in the masjid, don't even get into a conversation that leads to buying and selling. Don't do anything that is related to buying and selling. And this is a benefit, ya akhwa. Sometimes some of the brothers might be buying and selling and they're sitting in the masjid. He says, Alhamdulillah, I am in the masjid. I can even do my business. We say, La, this is not a place for that. The masjid is not for the filth of the dunya. It's not for the uh, يعني even if we didn't call it يعني filth is not for the lowly things of the dunya. This is a better word than what I have just said. Then not for the lowly dunya. You are here for ibadah, not for the dunya. طيب. نعم.
All fasid acts of worship, contracts, and conditions are haram because that is transgressing the limits of Allah and taking His ayat as a mockery. Because the Prophet ﷺ forbade stipulating conditions that are not in the Book of Allah. Fasid, in parentheses, invalid, and batil, in parentheses, false, have the same meaning except in two instances.
نعم.
Number one.
So yeah, when we just said the rule, every corrupt, يعني that which is corrupted from the ibadat. Let's say everything that is false, that is because this is what is meant by fasid, false, better. يعني that which is fasid from the ibadat and the uqud, it is muharram. نعم.
Sallallahu alaykum. Number one, in ihram, fasid is what the person in ihram treads on while in ihram before the first constraints of ihram are lifted, and batil is if he denounces Islam while doing it.
Again, number one.
Ahsanallahu alaykum. Number one, in ihram, fasid is what the person in ihram trends on while in ihram
Trends
before the
on.
first
Trends
treads
on.
on.
Treads
Treads
on.
on.
Treads on. Does that mean anything to you?
It's a bit unclear.
بأن الفاسد ما وطئ فيه المحرم. وطئ normally means to walk and tread on, right? But this is نعم أحسنت يا سهيل. What this means, intercourse. الوطء, what is meant here is what a man does with his wife. Allahu Akbar. This is a huge zillah here that changes the meaning altogether. Treads on. That doesn't even have a meaning. No, it's not about what rides. It's about what a man does with his wife. This is what is meant. So if he does that before the first tahallul. نعم.
Before the first tahallul of ihram are lifted, and batil is if he denounces Islam whilst doing it. Number two, in marriage, fasid is whatever the scholars differed as being corrupt or not, such as marriage without a guardian. And batil is what has been unanimously agreed upon, such as the false nature of marriage of a widow or a divorced woman in her waiting period.
نعم. This is the madhab of the Hanabila, by the way, just so you know. These are, we're studying usul fiqh, but this is what has been just mentioned. This is the madhab of the Hanbalis. They are the ones that have made these two exceptions. So a nikah al-batil is not really a marriage that didn't go through. So it's not a real marriage. لا تترتب عليه آثار النكاح. يعني it is an invalid marriage. Therefore, nothing of the rights of marriage apply here. Al-fasid, that which has difference of opinion in regards to تترتب عليها آثار النكاح, يعني what results from marriage is applied. However, we separate them and we make it binding upon them to make a new contract. And he makes a new contract. If he still desires the woman and the children are attributed to him because of this shubha, because of this suspicious matter that is there, which is what the difference amongst the people of ilm. The difference amongst the people of ilm. طيب. نعم.
Sallallahu alaykum. Chapter title, Knowledge. The author rahimullah said, the definition of knowledge is the perception of something for what it really is.
نعم.
And being firmly.
نعم. Before that, let's not start a new chapter then. Before that, let me ask you a question. What is the difference between الحكم التكليفي والحكم الوضعي? We spoke about it. الحكم التكليفي, the ruling that you're responsible for, تكليفي, and الحكم الوضعي. If you have truly understood what we have spoken about in the previous chapters, you'll understand that الحكم التكليفي أنت مطالب به. The حكم التكليفي, from the word تكليف, right? You are held responsible for it. As for الحكم الوضعي, you're not held responsible for it. And we have given the example of غروب الشمس. The sun sets. This is a condition for Salat al-Maghrib to be mandatory upon you. Are you required to do that? Of course not. Are you held responsible for the setting of the sun? No. So now we say this is يعني one of the major differences between الحكم الوضعي والحكم التكليفي. الأحكام التكليفية is something that you are capable of doing. الأحكام التكليفية, something that you're capable of doing. You are held responsible for something that is in your ability. And what you're capable of abandoning. As for الأحكام الوضعية, it's not related to that. We take an example. Hitting puberty. This is not in your capability. Somebody decides, I am 9, I am 10, I'm going to hit puberty. No. This is not something that is in your capability, you're capable of. So we understand that the ahkam al-wad'iyya are not held responsible for, but the ahkam al-taklifiyya are held responsible for. And we gave an example of the sun setting. And in regards to ability, whether you're capable or not, this has to do with the ahkam al-taklifiyya. As for ahkam al-wad'iyya, it has nothing to do with your ability, because you're not capable of fulfilling them. طيب. And I think this is good, inshallah ta'ala. If you have a question, you can go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa
rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
You mentioned about the permissibilities of buying and selling in the mosque, in the masjid. Does this ruling apply like also in places like in the West? Most masjids are more than like a musalla. It's like community center. Like people go there, you sleep, eat, different things like that.
It has to be outside of the masjid. The masjid is not a place for that.
No.
It has to be outside of the masjid. Barakallahu feek. Ya marhaba akhi al-habib Amal.
Jazakumullah khair.
Jazakumullah khair. Naam, let's see the questions. Ustadh, what is the correct position regarding the ruling of using cologne perfume containing alcohol? Which is the majority of perfumes? Does the ruling also apply to sanitizers and deodorants? When it comes to that, once before that, wait here, Ibn Junayd, Jazakumullahu khaira, in the Kuwaiti encyclopedia of fiqh, the jumhur of the people of ilm from the Hanafis, Shafi'is and Malikis, they see that selling inside a masjid is correct. However, it is forbidden. As I said, as I told you in the back of my head, I think it's the jumhur, which is correct. So the jumhur is upon that. So only the Hanabila are upon that it is false. It's not even buying and selling. طيب. In regards to perfumes containing alcohol, first of all, we have to know that, and this is I remember this is the fatwa of Imam bin Uthaymeen, that if there is if you have a different, if you can use something, an alternative that doesn't have that, of course you use that. Of course you use that. And if it has, it should be in small percentages as well. As for why is it haram, it's haram because of impurity. That's why. So if it is pure, it is allowed to use. Barakallah fikum. And inshallah Azza wa Jal, the overweighing saying is that it is pure. Is that it is pure. Also the saying of Ibn Uthaymeen. Is studying more than one book correct for a beginner student of knowledge, Ustadh? That's not a problem. When I was a beginner student of knowledge, I was studying multiple books with Sheikh Muhammad Isham. So you can start with one book if you want. We say to start one book only because we don't want to lose you as a student of knowledge. Because when you have the wrong start, the wrong beginning, you might lose, your lust for reading, your enthusiasm for studying and becoming a student of knowledge and all of these things. So when you study more than one thing, you might lose it, think it's difficult. But some people, they might not mind it. They say that's not a problem. I actually love that. I'm studying Aqidah, I'm studying fiqh. That's not a problem. So if you want, maybe you can study one book, which is the important lessons, and maybe you can study the 3 fundamental principles afterwards, the 4 rules, one book, and then maybe you can take on more than one book with Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. If while watching football, sometimes they show women and I lower my gaze, but people around me don't, and I turned on the TV, so am I assisting in sin? Na'am. If you turn on TV and you put a game and you know they're going to be uncovered women and so on, you're helping in sin. Na'am. Which should drive you to do something else that inshallah tabaraka wa ta'ala is fruitful for you and doesn't include something that is haram. Lust isn't right, Ustadh, he says. You cannot say lust for reading. That it is a big desire. We cannot say that. That's wrong in English to say. Is it? Is it wrong though to say? Because I think I heard.
No, I don't think justice is
Huh?
It's better than saying other inappropriate.
I can't hear anything. What?
Lust is not an appropriate word to say. It just means what it means.
It doesn't mean like you have a thirst for reading. That's not what it means. It has to be something that has to do with. Yeah.
It depends on the context.
I think I heard this, because don't forget I studied literature. I think I've read this in books and so on. Allah knows best. If I'm wrong, teach me, barakallah fikum. So, inshallah Azza wa Jal will stay away from this word, as it is a suspicious word. So we will say thirst for reading and for studying, inshallah ta'ala. We corrected it, bismillah. Inshallah. If I assisted in sin, no, I think our brother has asked a question. We already answered one of his questions. Assalamu alaikum, Ustadh. Can the scent from hand sanitizers make a sister who's outside fall into tabarruj? Same ruling as perfumes due to the scent of the sanitizers. Get a sanitizer that doesn't have a scent, because nowadays sanitizers, they smell like that have like cherry smell or a kind of perfume smell. These are mixed with perfumes, so obviously it's a perfume, right? But if it was so it takes the same ruling. So if you're using just a sanitizer a normal sanitizer that doesn't have that smell, then no, you don't fall under that. But if you're using these scented sanitizers, it's just like spraying perfume on your hands. So you shouldn't do that. Okay, one of the brothers says, English student here. It's okay to say lust, meaning desire to do something. I told you, I'm also English. I'm not an English student. I'm an English teacher, so I should know. طيب. Now I know this is a word that is used. I know that. Inshallah tabaraka ta'ala. But as native speakers, I thought that maybe I was wrong with this, but I knew I read it at certain places. But anyway, let's say thirst. They use it in poetry, and also in literature, also in novels, also in books. I know that. But anyway, that's not a problem, inshallah. طيب. Academic papers, yeah, you should stay away from them because you're not using that type of language there. This is the last question, inshallah. There are many young brothers teaching in the West, and they can rebuked for it. You mean they are being rebuked for it? How long do you have to study in order to teach, Ustadh? I don't understand with this tasaddur that is happening nowadays. This going publicly. And it might be because of the misuse of social media nowadays. I see this with my eyes. There are people that are worthy, not of teaching, but they're worthy of translating, maybe, or even if they were not worthy of translating, they're worthy of spreading knowledge, like clips and videos for the people of it. And we see that they are what? They're not doing it. And then we see people who are doing this, going publicly, and even transgressing certain bounds. And some of them have fallen into the ignorant path of, and the deviant path of warning against people and so on, and ulama, mashayikh, da'is, students of knowledge and so on, just because they have a channel and people watch them. And this is the sickness of tasaddur, that they want to be publicly, they want to teach publicly. And that is a problem. That is a problem that is happening nowadays. So normally, for example, I started teaching publicly, and there are some others that I started teaching publicly because there are certain ulama that told you should teach publicly, or certain ulama said you might be a sinner if you actually not teaching or answering people's questions and so on. So they know, they have taught this student for 10 years or 6 years or 15 years, and they know that this student of knowledge has reached a certain level, and they know that they can teach whether in Arabic or another language. So they say you should teach, and they encourage them, and they say teach in the masajid, teach in so and so. And then the brother that is teaching, his knowledge speaks for him. His knowledge speaks for him. Yes, he's not a alim. He's not capable of answering all questions. You're going to find many different parts of the religion that he's not good at. He doesn't know. But there are certain parts that he's good at. And he can teach, and he only sticks to those. Because there is a need. We understand he might not be a alim in mawarith. We understand he might not be a alim in has a good knowledge in regards to certain aspects of the religion, like in sarf, for example. We understand that. And it might, but however, he's good in aqidah, he's good in tawheed, he knows tafsir, he's good in hadith, and so on. He's able to teach those. Inshallah tabaraka wa ta'ala. So we don't hold it against him as if he is a scholar or a alim. So we have to be also just to these brothers. So his knowledge also speaks for him, if he's actually knowledgeable. The second thing is the third thing is his behavior. his behavior. We also see from his behavior, how is he indulging? Is he a person of wisdom? Is he a person of knowledge? Is he a person of fitan? Is he a person of recklessness? That also comes into play. And then we can ask his mashayikh. He says, for example, I studied under Sheikh Sulaiman al-Hayli. So we ask Sheikh Sulaiman al-Hayli, is he ready to teach? So all of these things, they play into account. So when we look at the young brothers, and we look at them, wallahi, we see that there are ulama that have said, seek knowledge on them. So don't pay attention to these people that are now coming and like mercenaries, they want to stop the road of Allah. There are scholars, world-renowned scholars, for example, that said, seek knowledge from these brothers. When you hear the brothers, when they speak and they teach, you see that they are knowledgeable. They are knowledgeable. And once you reach the area that I told you about that they don't know about, they say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. I do not know. Ask the ulama. And then you look at them. Are they people of fitan? Are they fattaneen? Are they reckless? Because the fitan and reckless equals ignorance. This recklessness and fitan causing, not the way of the ulama. And the ulama are not known for this. Have you known a alim that is fattan and reckless and heedless and... no. Therefore, the ulama are the people that when there's a calamity that happens, they go back to them and they see, because they have wisdom, they're not reckless, and they speak with knowledge and they remain silent with knowledge. Their silence is an answer. Now, the opposite, somebody causing fitan and he's reckless and doing this and causing problems here and there and talking about this person and that person and getting, especially in the West, you have these fitan, judging this person and judging that person and doing this and doing that and causing problems between these two people. And now he's bringing problems to ulama themselves, scholars now, and mashayikh there, it's inciting problems. Where is the knowledge that is sought from such a person? And there are more things, of course, like asking those that are closest to them as well, like Imam ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala has mentioned. Imam ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala has mentioned this in Al-Bayquniyah and other than Al-Bayquniyah and others from the people of ilm. He said, we see the closest people to them. And this is another thing that, subhanAllah, that is puzzling, that sometimes there's a alim or a sheikh or a student of knowledge in Saudi who's known and so on. And then you have somebody all the way in the United States or all the way in the United Kingdom. He's warning against this student of knowledge or this sheikh. And if you were to ask the ulama or the mashayikh that are close to them, most knowledgeable of them, they studied under them for like 10 years, they would praise them and they would say, seek knowledge and. And the people, they ignore this and they go and listen to that person in the United Kingdom that has never met this person, doesn't know this person, maybe the best of what he has heard from him is like 10 minutes, and they ignore someone who's a alim that taught this person for 5 years or 4 years or 10 years. Or where are the rules that we read then in the books of Mustalah al-Hadith and so on? Who's more knowledgeable? And add to it, it could be somebody that is unknown. You don't even know him. It's not like a alim in the West that is or a really strong student of knowledge, or even if it were. He's all the way there. How does he know this person? And the closest to him from the ulama and mashayikh don't know him. Unless there are exceptions, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. But this just shows you the chaos of nowadays. Therefore, the same, all of what I just said applies to the question that you have said. Who are the ones that are saying not to be taken from them? Are these people, if they meet the criteria of teaching, who are these people that are coming and telling them not to teach and telling them this and that? And you understand what I mean? But if it is the opposite, it's actually they are making tasadduran from themselves and they're not known for knowledge and this criteria doesn't apply to them, then the ones that are, they're not cutting the road anymore. Then what they are doing is what? They're actually advising them. They're telling them, as I say, I forgot the myth, تزبب قبل أن يتحصرم, or something like this, that يعني you should wait. And والله أنا أتعجب, يعني I'm astonished that somebody that يعني goes and يعني, if we look at somebody that just wants to go public and teach, and that makes me, as a student, really doubt this person that has come forth and started teaching يعني, in public, or going public, or applying rulings public, and he's not of the field, and he's not known. It's like, it's logical, isn't it? It's like a student who's at his first year in medical school, and now he is going forth and he says, I want to do heart surgery. No, not on me. I'm not gonna. Never. It makes total sense like this. It makes total sense. But I don't understand why, when it comes to the religion, it doesn't make sense. La wallahi, it makes more sense. It's even more dangerous. So you have to understand it. Well, medical school in his second year, he's going to now talk about chemotherapy, and he's going to tell you this is. Say, la akhi, hold on. I'll go to the professor. Or if I go to the doctor and the doctor tells me go to that person and he is competent enough, so I will go to the person who's competent enough. And I would be very, very suspicious of this person that put himself forth and started doing these things. Well, he's just a little student. And so imagine if it was in the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. Where is the sincerity? Where's the sincerity? Where is following the way of Salaf al-Salih? Where's the following of the people of ilm and following their ways? And how do you teach something you haven't already gained? فَاقِدُ الشَّيْء لَا يُعْطِيهِ. And to gain such a thing, you're going to need years and years and years down the line. And that's if you gain it after all of these years. So how can you give it? So you must understand these things, whether in teaching, whether in being public in the da'wah scene and other matters, even if it was in translation. And if it is, as Sheikh Muhammad Hisham al-Tahiri said, and you remember, and I said it publicly when I spoke to the Sheikh, even if it was in terms, and this is the worst out of them, yani, warning against this person and that person and passing rulings and judgments and so on. And so on and so forth. And so on and so forth. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to increase the number of students of knowledge, and to increase the ilm, and to increase the ulama, and get to know that there is a need for teaching. There is a need for teaching. And not anybody can sit in public and start speaking publicly about these matters. And we add a fourth, by the way, to talk, and this is even more dangerous than the third one, to talk about the general, like what's going, the nawazil, the calamities that befall the Muslim as a whole, or nations as a whole, or they start talking about bloodshed and talk about politics, and that happens, by the way. Some has a degree in like psychology or philosophy, and now he is ajib. He's talking about politics and nations, and yahi. We must understand these things. We must understand these things. You want to talk in regards to this? We have the big ulama, and sometimes big ulama, they don't talk about these things. They say, well, look at what the Mufti said, Sheikh Salih al-Fawzan. Look at what Sheikh Salih al-Sahimi said, the Mufti of Medina. Look at Hayat Kibar al-Ulama, they have given a fatwa in regards. And they are themselves kibar, they themselves are scholars. Now we get these youngsters, just because they have channels, and there's a couple of thousand of people that are watching them, now he is going to talk in everything. La. This is the very first evidence that this person is to be avoided. Because there's a huge ignorance now. It is from knowledge that you say, I do not know and I don't indulge in this. It is from knowledge to say, the people of the field, they are the ones that talk to you. I know this, I only talk about what I know. And that's it. Wallah, your sheikh said, my sheikh said, go ask my sheikh. I'm a little student of knowledge. We cannot come and say, just because there's a alim or a sheikh that has said something, now I am going to fight for it. And no. I'll tell you, wallah, he said so and so. This is what he said. Alhamdulillah. You can see, this is the only answer that I know. And you can go ask the ulama. Simple as that. Alhamdulillah. Humbleness, humility. You know your place. طيب إن شاء الله عز وجل this is a kind of a comprehensive answer بإذن الله تبارك وتعالى. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك